This is going to be your guide to the best junglers and who can jungle in Pokemon Unite. That's kind of all there is to it, so if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, share with your friends, and comment your thoughts down below. Let's get straight into it. The best jungle in the game right now is Zera Aura. I don't know how Zera Aura hasn't been nerfed until this point. It is just ridiculously overtuned. But then that means you just have a really strong jungler on your hand, and the weird thing is, it doesn't have a level 5 power spike, which is kind of what junglers want to prioritize, because you do a full clear of your jungle, you're level 5, you go in for Vespiquen, you do some crazy stuff, but Zera Aura has a mobility ability that also buffs its attacks, and crowd control at level 3, which means Zera Aura can do some really wacky gank paths by leaving up a Corphish and then running to a lane if the enemy Pokemon is overextended on that side of the map, or it can go full clear and then wait for Vespiquen to spawn and then get a kill, or get a double kill, or just camp them out at their goal, because Zera Aura also has sustain inside of its auto attacks, and if you just gank a lane that has any kind of crowd control, Zera Aura is also going to be getting crazy kills, and then just snowballs from there, because one of the reasons why you pick certain Pokemon in the jungle is to put as much experience onto it as fast as possible, so you get Zera Aura to level 8 by Dreadnought, and now you have a Pokemon that has access to one of the strongest abilities in the game with the Discharge, and you get to take over from there. Now, it is weird because you get your Night move at level 10, so you kind of have like a level 9 power trough, but you're still ridiculous, so you still win that level 9 fight with Discharge, and then you get your Night move, and then you just take over the Rotom fight, and the game's yours. Like, Zera Aura is absurd. It's disgustingly broken. I don't know how or why players sleep on the Zera Aura so much. I know there's gonna be people in the comments saying, what do you mean Zera Aura slept on? I play it all the time and it got me the master rank. Yeah, but you just don't see it in most games, especially for it being the best jungler in the game. So all you Zera Aura mains out there, yeah, I respect you. I put the thing at number 1 because it's ridiculous. But overall, like, I don't get it. People were hung up on Greninja, and even before the Greninja nerfs, Zera Aura was still the best jungler in the game. I'm also going to put Lucario at the second best, and Lucario jungle pretty much never picked. But I talked about the power of that level 5 gank, and that's what makes Lucario so good. Power Punch is trolling. Don't pick it. It was bad before the nerf. Extreme Speed has always been the best moveset on Lucario, and that's the thing. You get level 5 from the full clear, you go down into a lane where Vespiquen is, and then you just wait. And then you get a double kill, because there's no way of stopping the amount of pressure from Meteor Mash and the extreme speeds. You dash through the enemy Pokemon twice because you're getting extreme speed resets, maybe even more. Like, if you can catch Combi in, like, if, like, let's say they're all, like, kind of piling in, there's, like, a Vespiquen scuffle going on, well, what you do is you dash through a Combi, and then you hit one of them, so you get a reset, you hit them again, you Meteor Mash them into your team, and then you hit them again, and then they're dead. Or you can just kind of do extreme speeding under their goal, break the shields, extreme speed through them, steal a citrus berry, push them away from the other citrus berry, or push them out of the goal so they don't have the shielding and healing anymore, and then you get kills. It's a double kill. And then if they have their jungler try to, like, back them up or go for a counter gank, your extreme speed is back up. So there's just more targets to reset off of. Lucario has the best level 5 gank in the game. And then you can go and pop off from there and just get crazier, and then you hit level 9 around the Dreadnought fight, use your Aura Sphere to get even more resets, Dreadnought secure even more damage, and you're just unstoppable. Even though Lucario is, like, the best laner in the game, it's also one of the best junglers, and I don't know why people are sleeping on it so much as well. I guess, like, there's some kind of struggle going on with the extreme speed skill cap, because, yeah, you whiff extreme speed and then you're kind of useless, so it's not as free as some of the other Pokemon, it's not as forgiving as some of the other junglers on that gank, but if you get good, then that has, like, a low chance of failing, and then you're getting a double kill, you're getting a lane ahead, you go for another clear, you go to the other lane, and you're just getting kills wherever you go. Lucario has, like, some of the most kill pressure, show up, counter pressure, like, it's just absurd. It's disgusting what Lucario can do. And now, I don't know what to put for best, because I have strong as a tier, and I feel like every other Pokemon is strong compared to what Zera Aura and Lucario can do. It's like, people are like, oh man, but what about the Greninja? You know, you get Greninja to level 9 for the Dreadnought fight, and it's crazy, and there's also Gengar. I think Gengar is being very disrespected right now, and even before the mobile patch, like, Gengar has always been viable, in my opinion. Now, I can understand to a degree because Wigglytuff pretty much makes the game unplayable for Gengar, and it was one of the most picked Pokemon, but Wigglytuff was literally bugged, which is why it was overperforming. Same thing for Blastoise. And it depends on, like, the Blastoise moveset. So, I mean, like, Surf Blastoise gives Gengar a hard time. People pick up Mr. Mime and just confuse you away. That's a bad time. So, Gengar, you know, it has, like, a lot of unfavorable matchups, but I think the secret there is full heal. You run full heal, you pop it, and then you're getting hex resets, and then it just snowballs from there, because if you use the full heal properly, they're not going to have any more cooldowns to crowd control you, so even when full heal wears off, you get to use the rest of your hexes. And if you're hitting multiple people inside of a team fight or getting multiple resets, you have some of the highest damage in the game, and you can effectively take out like half health of a team or just like kill people inside the team while you also have other team members contributing. So Gengar just puts so much weight into a fight. That's why I consider it really strong, and it just pops off at level 7. So you don't need level 8 like Zera Aura. Even if you somehow fall behind or have a bad gank or something, you just have level 7 for Dreadnought, so you can either take out the team or Giga Burst Dreadnought, and then now you get your team back ahead, or you're just always ahead, and then Gengar is ridiculous at all times. I want to put Gengar in the third and final in the best category, but I haven't seen enough of it on the new patch, or I haven't seen enough of it in a while to know if it like actually belongs there, even though I know it's super strong and I know it can be really gross. But also, I think as players get better at the game, then Gengar kind of drops off. Like when Gengar first came out, it was still unacceptable. It still needed nerf. There were way too many iframes for even experienced MOBA players. However, the more you go against Gengar and the more you understand the game, the more you have the ability to play around it. Because you see Gengar strolling up, it's like, well, I either need to dodge the Sludge Bomb at all costs, or I need to crowd control it a little bit after it shows up. Like now there's a better window to counterplay it from the Hex invulnerability. Yeah, you can just kind of like stuff Gengar out, and that's kind of the end of the story. And if you're just a Wigglytuff main, well, you have no problems really ever with a Gengar. You just cuddle puddle with all of your allies, and then Gengar can't get in on them and they get crowd control. It's GG for the Gengar. However, I don't know what mobile means or a new player base. Like maybe Gengar is temporarily one of the best junglers in the game, as new players don't understand how to play against Gengar, so it artificially overperforms, or maybe mobile controls make Gengar more reliable on landing hexes and then like snowballing off of that. So we'll see there, but I mean like this is how I feel about it. Like Gengar, like all of these Pokemon have been slept on, and they were the best all along, like always has been tier, you know? Greninja, the thing about Greninja is, like, yeah, it snowballs, and you want to get ahead, and that does, like, crazy things, and it pops off with surf resets, but I feel that it's not that great of a jungle because its ganks aren't super crazy. Like, Frogadier shows up in the 3v3, or even a 2v3 or counter gank, and I'm like, I don't care about you. This is not a threat at all. Like, I will KO a Frogadier jungle's ally, and then walk back to my goal, and come out experience positive on that. Because Frogadier isn't a threat. Like, when it becomes Greninja, yeah, then it's a threat. But that's throwing away the first couple minutes of the game, and if you have a more pressure-heavy jungler, so I'm thinking about it from, like, a cross-map perspective towards, like, the Frogadier gank doesn't really accomplish much of anything, and the Zera Aura gank is getting his entire lane ahead, and then that also helps for, like, Dreadnought rotation and snowballing the game. Now, think about Greninja as, like, Greninja will just stay in the jungle and, like, steal camps from lanes until it hits level 9 for Dreadnought, and that's insane. Like, I don't know how Greninja players always keep up in levels, even if they're, like, getting KO'd on failed ganks or not ganking as good as other lanes, and then they start to pop off from there, but that means, like, Greninja has all of that experience. So if the Greninja gets shut down or starts falling behind, then the entire team is going to have a hard time, whereas these other junglers, they're hard solo carrying, but they're also Giga enabling their team, and that makes them really strong. As for some other strong junglers, Charizard. Like, I feel that Charmander and Charmeleon's laning is absolute pain and suffering and doesn't make the character worth it, but you're getting just ahead enough on the Charizard to where it's like, okay, now you're actually scaling, and now the game's feeling a little bit better for you. And if you get a good time ganked, like, Charmander and Charmeleon don't really have, like, the best of mobility compared to other gankers and other Pokemon, but that crowd control. If someone overextends into the enemy Charizard jungler, they're going to get KO'd, and they're going to have a bad time. So Charizard really needs to play around counter jungling, but also keeping up with its experience, so you're kind of playing on a knife's edge. Like, if a Charmeleon falls behind, the game's over, especially from the jungle, so you can't have that happen. But if it gets ahead, because the amount of crowd control, the amount of slow in Charizard's kit is absurd, and I think that's where the buffs to Charizard have really shined. So it's like, yeah, you get stuck in that, and now you're just slowed, and then you just have 3 people beating on you. You're dead. It's over like that. Then Charizard gets a score or something, and then it gets more head. Can also kind of like zone off the goal with all the AoE and fire attacks or something. So it can be strong. And then if it gets ahead, it's crazy, but it's also not super reliable, but it's definitely stronger than viable. So we got that going on. Next up, we have Cinderace. And now that Greninja has been nerfed, I consider Cinderace the stronger jungle, and I preferred Cinderace over Greninja pre-Greninja nerf because Cinderace can crit and output the most gross amounts of DPS, and it also just has like crazy things with its Unite move. Like after Cinderace uses its Unite move, the amount of speed and stats and safety from Buddy Bear it gets is effectively uncounterable. Like it's just going to outrun you and then outbeat you to death with like flaming fireballs. So it just becomes unstoppable. Whereas Greninja, its Unite move is kind of like you might get a steal, but you still have to go in, and then you're vulnerable for it. Like, Greninja doesn't pop off as hard with the Unite move, and also doesn't have as much just, like, solid, safe DPS because it doesn't crit as much as Cinderace. So, I think that Greninja was always flavor of the month, but now we're going to see, like, how this happens with the performance. Raboot, I feel the same about it. Like, Raboot shows up, and I'm not like, oh no, this is the worst time to get ganked. I'm thinking, I just walk out of it, and everything's going to be okay. And then we can talk about some other strong junglers like Machamp. Machamp is definitely being overlooked as a jungle because that level 5 gank, it's going to run in with submission, it's going to flash onto someone, it's joinking them, and then they're just gone. So your level 5 gank pressure is very strong, but then I feel like you drop off and you don't have like as much craziness. Like, okay, Machamp comes up and gets to get 1 KO just like in Crazy Cheese, and then either secure Vespiquen or retreat to the jungle and try to like stack as much experience as possible. But Zera Aura is getting a double kill at level 4 or 5. Lucario is getting a double kill into a triple kill counter gank, return counter at level 5 as well, and then Gengar's level 7 is absolutely disgusting. Machamp only really has the level 5 submission cheese, and it's not a guarantee after that, and its level 7 isn't as crazy as other level 7s, like, oh, if Greninja actually starts getting surf resets, and then it's just like popping off at range and being tricky with the smokescreen, yeah, that can put in a lot of pressure. I think it has a bit more like pressure under the goal, and if your submission cooldown comes back up, you submission, you run behind their goal, steal the citrus berries, and then yoink someone. Alright, you can get away with some like cheeky things like that, and then you scale, and then Machamp, like, if Machamp uses its Unite move, it becomes like the best character in the game, next to like Garchomp using its Unite move. So that's some pretty crazy stuff, but I feel like it just either breaks team compositions, or maybe people haven't truly unlocked it, or the biggest problem is that it's not as free as some of the other junglers, so it's maybe being overlooked on. But if you really like Machamp, consider taking it into the jungle, and maybe you're just going to change the outcome of games and turn Machamp into like an S tier jungle or something. But overall, it's definitely strong. It's above viable, and it is something that people should consider, much like the Cramorant. So you don't think Cramorant jungle, but it's again a level 4 ganking jungle. The problem with Cramorant is that if you miss the Hurricane on your gank is effectively useless. But at least you have like some heavy, secure, and pressure. Whatever lane you're going into with Cramorant jungle, they're getting Vespiquen. And if you come in at the right time, like you wait and hide and wait for them to like overextend or something, or you flank them as they're going in for the Vespiquen, if you get that Whirlpool into Hurricane and then your team follows up on it, that's a double kill. The problem is, like, it does take a lot of skill shotting, and it does take, like, a lot of skill and accuracy and a little bit of luck to make sure everyone lines up perfectly for it. And then if you land a Surf Hurricane, that completely changes the game. You know, you just start picking people out, you're doing crazy amounts of damage. If you get, like, double crowd control on both laners, or even, like, one laner, that one laner's gone. Get on both laners, that's a double kill, that's a goal take, and that's probably a goal break right before Dreadnought or something. So, Cramorant does some wild stuff, and your clear is ridiculously fast because of the Whirlpool. Something like Cramorant can hard scale in the jungle. It's just, like, weird, because if you're putting, you know, 80 carries, like Greninja, Cinderace, and even Charizard. Like, when Charizard uses its Unite move, it becomes one of the best 80 carries in the game for a couple of seconds, because it's just raining and melting absurd amounts of critting flamethrower damage. Charizard's absurd. Like, Charizard can get crazy, and that's why you want to put it in the jungle to get that experience on it. Cramorant becomes a burst jungle, and another issue with Cramorant is that it can't take Dreadnought by itself. It can't take Zapdos by itself, so then you're putting Pokemon like the Charizard, the Greninja, Greninja, the Cinderace into their own lanes where they are going to be weaker. But if you can use those ganks to like scale them and like keep them ahead of the lane or even like on par with the enemy jungle because they're getting so much kill experience, okay, then Cramorant's being successful. But if you like don't build the right composition around it, you just have no pressure for Dreadnought or Zapdos, and then your game is going to be very difficult. But Cramorant has some of the most disgusting ganking and damage and burst, and yeah, it's just a really strong Pokemon in the jungle, especially because of the fast clear speed. Outside of that, I'm like kind of looking, maybe we'll put another Pokemon to strong as we go through it, but I don't see how there's like other strong junglers, and we'll get to that. You know, people are like, what about Absol? Absol is viable because Absol is viable. Like, yes, it's a very strong jungler, but it's not strong in the meta. And it's also a very crazy coin flippy kind of Pokemon. If you come out of the jungle and you crit and get the insta KO, okay, yeah, now Absol's ahead for most of the game, and it's going to be a pretty tough life for the enemy team. If Absol shows up and gets like double RNG and gets double one-shots, then Absol now can do whatever it wants inside the game for the next like 4 minutes or something. But eventually Absol drops off because of how team fighting works in this game and also objective pressure. Like, Absol has to be in melee range to be hurting Zapdos, or at least be like somewhere around the fight. So Absol, very easy to get picked off. It can't just dive into a team fight and start like picking off people and getting like assassinations and crazy amounts of damage. It's just out of the meta, and backdooring is complete troll. They're either going to send their team to jump out of the base and then jump onto the second goal pad and stop you anyways, or you score 50 points, but that's at the cost of Dreadnought or Rotom or Zapdos tempo, and then it just doesn't really work. Absol is the epitome of a hyper-clearing, assassin, hyper-ganking jungle, but the meta just doesn't call for it right now. If Dreadnought gets nerfed, if Zapdos gets nerfed, if something weird about how teamfight mechanics changes because like people are starting to split the map a bit more because Dreadnought and Zapdos don't matter as much, or maybe there's like changes to scoring or something. Like, if something else changes about the game, then yeah, Absol is going to be strong tier. I just don't know if the RNG makes it possible to ever be a best tier jungle, even though it is, like I said, it's the epitome. It is the definition of what you think about in some kind of jungle Pokemon in center lane for a game like Unite. But it just doesn't, it's just like not great as a Pokemon right now. And I know that's going to offend people, but that's just kind of the reality. I know people are gonna be like, well, I got a 30 kill game on Absol. Yeah, Lucario, Gengar, and Zera Aura do that as well, and then just putting like an 80 carry in the jungle also has some pretty crazy side effects inside the game, whereas Absol, it's a coin flip, and then it continues to just kind of be in a weird state throughout the game. Same thing for Talonflame. Talonflame got a damage buff, Talonflame has crazy damage, but the Talonflame gank, or the Fletchinder gank, like Talonflame's gank doesn't really threaten me too much. Like, it's hyper mobility, but its damage hasn't really scaled there yet, and I feel like I can just KO it. Like, if I see a Fletchinder show up, I'm just going to dive it. I'm just all-inning it. I don't care if it's a 3v2. It's kind of like the Frogadier. I'm not going to respect you. I'm still going to find KOs anyways. So that's the kind of thing about the Fletchinder. So Talonflame has to stay in the jungle and then scale, but then like you're losing gank pressure, you're losing tempo, you're not helping out lanes, and at that point a level 9 Greninja Dreadnought is going to be stronger than a level 9 Talonflame at Dreadnought. Talonflame's Unite move, not really that great or helpful in a lot of situations. Talonflame wants to be a backdoor. Talonflame technically has like Fly Steal on Dreadnought, but again, as players get better at the game, Talonflame cheeses less. It's like, have we seen Talonflame yet? Okay, just kind of halt the Dreadnought take for a second, you know, leave it at a third or a quarter health. Talonflame can't burst it from there. Hey, Talonflame flew in and just inted into us. Talonflame's dead, now we get Dreadnought and Zapdos for free, easy. So as long as you don't greed the objectives and you take care of Talonflame, good to go. If Talonflame shows elsewhere on the map because it's trying to use that mobility to backdoor, then it's trolling. It's why Score Shield is bad. It's why scoring and splitting is bad in general, because Dreadnought and Zapdos are the game, and Talonflame's just kind of out of place. Now, it did get damage buff, so maybe like it's a little better in team fights now, but really the only thing Talonflame can do is int into the start or the middle of a fight, do like crazy burst, and then immediately die. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but Talonflame just pretty out of place in the game right now. Let's just talk about some don't use jungles. Venusaur, why it just doesn't, just look, when you have all these other Pokemon, Venusaur ain't it in the jungle. However, I will consider Mr. Mime like a viable meme tier jungle, and I've seen good Mr. Mimes from the jungle. The thing about Mr. Mime jungle is that if you slightly overextend against it just a little and it shows up at the wrong time, you're dead. There's nothing you can do about it. Barriers happening, you're getting confusion pushed into it, and some million damage. And that's the weird thing about Mr. Mime, is that it's a support. it's not supposed to be like crazy. It's always supposed to like maybe be a level behind, maybe, you know, kind of developed around the experience share or something. It's not supposed to be ahead. If Mr. Mime gets like 2 levels ahead because of the jungle, oh no, now it's actually like the highest damaging character in the entire game at the time. Also, if you rush it to its Unite move, use that to shut down team fights, use that to get Dreadnought, use that to get Zapdos, use that to get Rotom or another mid-game team fight, you get the rest of your team ahead, and now you just have a really strong scaled Mr. Mime while the rest of your team is neutral or ahead. And that's a winning combination for the game. Now, Mr. Mime doesn't Giga Clear, and it doesn't have any mobility abilities to, like, secure and guarantee ganks, but you can easily get punked by a Mr. Mime jungle, and it's pretty ridiculous. Snorlax, don't jungle with it, take it to lane, tackling the Centaur Dino or the Corphish, and then, like, providing pressure to get one of your carries to scale is what Snorlax wants to do. It doesn't have, like, crazy ganks or clear compared to some of the other Pokemon. Gardevoir, even though we put Pokemon in the jungle to scale them as fast as possible and get experience, and Gardevoir is one of the most experience-dependent Pokemon, again, like, it doesn't have that same pressure. It doesn't do the same absurd, crazy things as some of these other Pokemon. Same for Garchomp. I think that some people would consider Garchomp a viable jungle, but it's one of those things where it's like, I feel you're just wasting a better Pokemon to be in the jungle, and it also tells me that you're an insecure Garchomp player. Like, a good Gible can get through lane and then stay neutral in experience, or just kind of go all in on the Vespiquen fight and then come out with a kill, or at least trade 1-for-1, and that is positive on the Gible because of how hard the Garchomp scales. So, I don't think, like, if you put it in there, again, like, you're losing gank pressure. You're not going to be able to do anything, and you're not going to be level 10 by first Dreadnought, so you're not going to get there. You're not going to get where you need to go by putting all that valuable jungle experience onto the Garchomp. It's just going to be wasted to speed up Garchomp's power spike by, like, 30 seconds. And at that point, all the objectives are taken, and Garchomp is just trolling. Crustle, I don't think it does anything. You want that bad boy in lane, and then you just want to start, like, styling on laners. I do think there's, like, weird, viable jungle Eldegoss shenanigans. Like, that's at the bottom of meme tier, bottom of viable, but I've seen it. And if you've seen it, and if you've seen a good Eldegoss jungle, it's weird. Because once again, like, Eldegoss gets ahead, and now its supportive capabilities are overtuned compared to what the developers intended, and it's just blocking out options, and it's just doing stupid things inside the game. And then outside of Blastoise, I feel like every other Pokemon is just don't take it into the jungle. Because, like, Ninetales, that laning is crazy. Pikachu, it just doesn't have, like, the damage to Giga Clear and then also have, like, good enough ganks. Wigglytuff, I've tried Wigglytuff. Like, Wigglytuff would be meme tier jungle because it's cool if you, like, come out of jungle and you sing people and catch them or roll out for a lot of damage or something. But nah, like, it just doesn't work. Wigglytuff falls off a cliff. You want to put scaling people, like, you want to put scaling carries or high impact Pokemon into the jungle. And Mr. Mime is actually a scaling carry because if you get a stun, even at 2 minutes with, like, Zapdos, when everyone's, like, level 12 or 13, Mr. Mime can still do half of someone's health. Other supports and a lot of other Pokemon don't even scale that hard on the damage. Like, Mr. Mime one-shot someone, you know? You go Guard Swap or Barrier into Confusion, that does 2/3 of a Cinderace's health. You use your Unite move, Cinderace dies immediately, you run that Unite move into the rest of the team fight, you do, like, 1/3 of the entire team's health, and then you catch someone else with another Stun Confusion, and Mr. Mime just got 2 kills and, like, 400% health effective damage. So yeah, Mr. Mime ahead does that. Slowbro, it's already a bad Pokemon, definitely not. Blissey wants to be helping out people in lane. And Blastoise is the weird one. We saw the nerf. And does that put Blastoise in the strong? Or is this actually the true tier list? If Blastoise gets ahead, it beats every other Pokemon in the game, pretty much. And the way you get Blastoise ahead is in the jungle, and it turns on earlier than Garchomp. It turns on earlier than a lot of other Pokemon, and that's, like, kind of the crazy thing. That's, like, Blastoise not providing any gank pressure is kind of okay if Blastoise, like, let's say your lanes fall behind because of ganks, or they lose, or they go neutral or something. Well, Blastoise just shows up out of the jungle at Dreadnought, 1 to 2 levels ahead, and then that's when it does the gank. That's when it gets the kills for your team. It's invisible for the first 3 minutes, and then now it's unstoppable for the rest of the game. That will happen. But after, like, the nerf, it's like, oh yeah, the Water Spout Rapid Spin was actually super overperforming. So without that damage, does that actually, like, drop off everything about Blastoise and hurt it enough? Because you really aren't picking Blastoise jungle for the Surf Hydro Pump, you're doing it so you could Rapid Spin Water Spout onto carries in the backline and around Dreadnought to where there's just no counterplay whatsoever against Blastoise. But let's just say, like, that nerf to not be able to auto-attack while Rapid Spouting, what if that actually knocks off, like, a level, because Blastoise gets one less kill on average, so it doesn't get as ahead. It's also permanently losing, like, 1,000 damage or something throughout its ability rotation, but also Rapid Spout scales really hard with levels, so it's further losing damage, so now it doesn't get ahead. So now it's just, like, a strong jungler, but it's also not as strong because of all the, like, other ganking and hyper carry stuff that can go into the jungle. So it's still kind of early to see how much that was overperforming the Blastoise, but it's something to keep an eye on. Like, before the Blastoise nerf, yeah, that's best. Like, I don't know what happened. And also, maybe it's also just bad players get overly wrecked by the Blastoise. Like, if you die to a Wartortle gank, that's just game over right there. But it shouldn't happen because Wartortle isn't one of the best gankers. However, if you just have bad players on your team and they lose bot lane in the 2v3, then yeah, that Blastoise jungle just got ahead and the game is kind of unsalvageable. So Blastoise does create like a lot of unhealthy game states just through its power, but you also have enough autonomy to prevent that from happening. Like, if they have Blastoise jungle, just don't play greedy and make sure you get that Dreadnought, and then Blastoise jungle just like underperforms compared to pretty much every other jungler. So got some weird stuff going on right there, and that is the tier list. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.